of that, 43.9% of full postcodes were repeat locations. So we try to identify those patterns because when you looked at the data from the postcode count, which John will talk about, only one postcode, 1,566 postcodes only had ever had one offence through. So it's trying to tackle and take out those where there was more than one offence in the same full postcode location.
And what we're showing here is basically just a very quick illustration of a visual impression of where the burglaries are taking place. County Durham, Darlington, it's really, I suppose, an important point to make here. Being a predominantly rural police force, you'll find that the crime concentrates in the sector hubs, as we call them, so your main towns, and ones, it's not actually a city, but our largest urban or metropolitan area being Darlington. And so you get these sort of squadrons in those main hubs across our force area, rather than a big urban force, whereas a much more densely, or the concentration will be down to particular areas of the city.
Everything has a cost of life, everything has a cost of society. Obviously, when you look at the hopeless cost of crime, it worked out at £530 for a precinct to respond to a domestic abuse incident. And then when you overlay that on the date, 12 months prior to the trial, that effectively would be what the Home Office would say the cost of crime for Durham places. There's some obviously information risk to be added to that at this particular point in time, but we can't continue to afford to spend £1.4 million per year on residential burglaries.
Really important just to sort of say that we were kind of going into when Andy was actually putting this phone together, we were going into lockdown era, so to speak, lockdown. So what we're trying to show here is that before any of this took place, we wanted to see what was going on in terms of burglary across the force area. And this basically charts that out. Trend line, probably not that accurate to be quite honest with you. There's a lot of erratic sort of peaks and troughs, so to speak, going on here. But generally, as we're going into the lockdowns, that was coming down a bit. That has an important ramification for our results, which we'll report on a bit later. Just to show what's happening with burglary pre this experiment taking place. Here, really important. I mean, the bulk of what's going on in terms of the MOs, the burglaries, almost half where the property's been forced into, some sort of damage is taking place. But this is the really key statistic. So about a third of the burglaries are where they give the expression that the victim has been careless, not bothering to lock a door, etc.
So, taking that aside, we know what the problem is, people leaving the houses, around looking at the evidence base to understand what was already out there and what could be used to try and alleviate some of these problems. We know that target repeat victimisation is an effective tool. The systematic reviews which identify that. Publicity, again, there is some limited evidence base around that. Single surveys or single pieces of research that show making people aware that there's a particular crime type in an area can be effective. Street lighting, I mean, there's no point investing money in street lighting when the events are happening through the day, so it's trying to take a proportionate response to some of these solutions that we've got. Property marketing, neighbourhood watch, community wardens, and field alarms and CCTV all cost money. I didn't have any money. There's nothing available, so it's trying to take something together and put it all in an effective response. So when you take things like Operation Swordfish, which ran in the West Midlands area, they spent a bit of money and almost adopted an approach of gold, silver, and bronze response to each particular house. So the houses either side of the target probably got a gold response, lights that went into the windows, timers, door locks, and stuff like that. Either side of the property got a different response up until house property the other side. We're often the wide approach where you look at window locks, interior lights, door deadlocks, and door times and stuff like that. The evidence base is a bit mixed, and from the research we found in Durham, the safe streets wasn't always as effective as it could be. And again, locks, lights, and lines of sight, both of that piece of research and the Operation Swordfish didn't see any particular reduction in burglary following the interventions, and a lot of them cost money as well. So just try to look at and build on what we'd already done in force. So I came up on much to do Jason Rhodes and Kevin Weir that they've done in around the theft of insecure motor vehicles. So the same time, this is how can we make it more specific to the burglary? Because the burglary nudge that we had was quite generic. But a nudge is around trying to change people's behaviour, trying to take out that fast thinking and get into that 2% of the brain activity where you go into that store thinking and think about things in a more succinct way. But it has to be done in an ethical and improved way. Does anybody know who this particular individual is? Nobody ever gets it. Nobody ever gets it. There's no new prize. Oh, sorry? Well done. Are you playing tonight? So he made potato more appealing. Like from not like growth but taken away. So in times of scarcity of food and things like that and famine, in and around Vernon, he planted fields full of potatoes, put his army and guards around the fields to make the products of the potato field valued, and then he told the guards to turn the plant down. The locals came and stole the potatoes in starvation. So it's about how you change people's perception of what a product is. But that is my brief history lesson today. But it's just about that choice architecture that people make in a particular way. But probably the most famous people around Nudge are Richard Darwin, Cassius Day, and have written on Nudge, and probably another couple of books that have written beyond that as well. But Rachel, you talked about East before, was a mindscape mnemonic that we tried to use within the burglary stuff that we did. But what we did in the Durham, and you'll see that very shortly, we did it a little differently. We primed people's cognitive thinking around what was going on to incentivize the behaviours around what we were going to do. So I'll skip over this because Rachel mentioned it before. But nudging is it's not new, it's been around. The UK government is one of the biggest providers of using nudge behaviour. And it's about that choice autonomy, so you're not feeling demoralised or behave in a financial way that's going to impact you. So a lot of it is around choice around automatic opting in rather than opting out, because I'll talk about bad ethics in a minute, but where you subscribe to a magazine and then you can only, if you want to unsubscribe, it takes you weeks and weeks of emails and communications to get out of it. Nudging has to be done in an ethical way that allows people to be more pro-social with their choices and the way that they behave. So nudges in everyday lives, there's obviously characters that always, when you buy your Happy Meal or whatever, and you want a medium meal because you're on a diet, like I am, but they will always say, would you like to go like that? Just think it's easy at that particular point in time. On the excavators, it's not so that you put your feet next to the brush to keep them clean, it's so that you've got a nudge to know where to stand and keep safe. Your Simpsons one's always famous with all the Fat donuts, but probably one of the most famous ones in Chippettle Airport, the fly. Does everybody know the story of that? Yeah, so that's a good example of nudge. I have no idea how to measure the success factors for that. That is my skill in nudging, but that's one of the famous ones at the top. So this was the nudge approach that we used in Durham, originally around theft from motor vehicles. Really generic leaflets, but it was around cars that are broken into because people are insecure. And what we found was we had 2 control areas and 2 treatment areas. We found a reduction in the theft from insecure motor vehicles and treatment areas, but we also found a reduction in the control areas. So it was inconclusive finding really, and we needed to test what we wanted to understand how much it could change people's behaviour. So we decided to do it. I'll briefly touch on this, but ultimately what you don't want to do is make the choices of an individual worse, or then they impact and impede on their ability to make better life choices. It's freedom of autonomy, so how it's impact on it too, what to do in a more post-social way. So we'll talk about system 1 and system 2 thinking. So system 1, 98% of our decision making is in that system 1. 35,000 decisions a day that we made, all in system 1. System 2 is that really slow time thinking, that ability just to think a little bit differently and make that great amount of work about something that's facing at that particular time to reflect and understand what goes on.
Okay, right. This is something you've seen a bit earlier on in a previous presentation, but this is the triple T, basically. Response to the SAR model, then probability policing, but targeting. So we're using postcodes to target. Postcodes where a burglary is taking place. We're using a test. Something new, something old. Basically, an experimental, a new intervention, nudge, versus just doing business as usual. Tracking. Who got it? Did they get it to the extent that we expected them to get it? Do we record that? Do we monitor it? Do we understand exactly what that means?
So John's kind of touched on this before, and it's almost more than using America to struck by based on what we take a problem solving approach, but you take an evidence-based response to it. So for me, in this particular process, we do put the activity being of origin situation prevention, and we try to interrupt the behaviour of the victim, interrupt the behaviour of the offender by making it more difficult, resulting in burglaries and cause because people leaving houses open. How do you make it more difficult and how do you increase the risk for them to go and commit a crime somewhere else where there's greater risk of detection, or they change the MO where they cause damage to the particular entry point and relieve forensic opportunity. So that's how it's trying to fit into problem solving approach, taking an evidence-based response to what we do.
First team, second team, testing. This is something that Peter and Casey were alluding to a bit earlier on about find a case, how you test it, get the glitches out of the way, find out what's wrong, what's going to work and how it's going to break, etc. That's the time to do it. Then straight bang into a line case, and then we start testing the errors.
We ran the checkpoint experiment. We learned an awful lot from that. We had 2 long running periods in terms of testing. We wanted to keep this one short, sharp, and succinct. Building capacity to enable inspectors to deliver what we wanted. So we kept it as short as we possibly could.
RCT design. So we used randomized control trials. These are the eligibility factors. So effectively, that's the discrimination of what's going to go in and what won't go in. And the key way we use to assign people postcodes into one, the testing or to business as usual, Cambridge randomized. We did this because it's a verified tool. It's got an academic paper published on academic paper out there. So we're using something that's tried and tested, not something that's just off the shelf. Who knows whether it works well.
And we do not work it well to make that difference. So we had 154 full postcodes on control group, 157 postcodes on treatment group. We had 99.4% experiment technique. I didn't get much leaflets delivered on one postcode, and it's killing me to this day that I couldn't comply with it. But we understand from the checkpoint programme the integrity of the experiment is really important. The impacts on the finance regions. So hence we had 9.4% and one postcode for the full. So
can't mention leaflets. I mean, this is just really quickly. These are generic leaflets, not to diss any of the police forces in question, but those are available on the internet, and this also alludes to the point Rich made earlier. They're published and they are generic. That's the key word here.
So what was different about Durham? So we took a Google image of every street and every full postcode out of Google and put it in our leaflet. So when you look at the primary of that particular event, it was front and centre. Well, this is my street. This is what's happened. Actually, a third of my burglars in this area really was traffic or the individual. And so much broken to do. And we think that that is the difference. It's been a difference to the results of the top of. We did have some generic stuff on the back. We're going to print one side of the paper, we'll have to put two. And I'll talk about some of the changes I would like to do differently if we rerun this trial. But it was really primed around trying to get people's attention on their street. We tracked everything. Everything from start to finish in this experiment was tracked from the moment we randomised to the time it took to take things in. We looked at external validity, which John will touch on a little bit around how we made sure our randomisation was fair and balanced, which we found was really important and useful. I did some cheeky nudges in between. So on top of cheeky nudges, the enabled inspectors would get an email from me every Monday when I got the big postcode locations. And I made it as easy as possible for them to just print off the leaflet and to get their neighbour teams to deliver nudge to those full postcodes in that postcode area. And as time went on, it changed, and we went to spell things off and print out the colour. Sometimes black and white, which annoys us. But as time went on, you could see patterns in the behaviour where those postcodes, locations that were coming every week, where you could see a drop in the reduction in re-victimisation. So it's important we fed some back, fed some feedback back to the section. There's something quite promising here, continue to do it, which is really important for us. So, cost, I've touched on it at the start, so we've delivered just short of 8,000 leaflets. We didn't want it so you have to send your leaflets to the printing department on a Monday morning for it to come back on Friday afternoon and deliver the weekend. we base our costs on what it costs us to print off an A4 printer in a local station to keep the shops sharp and see. We track police officers' time, my time, the 18 hours was over the period of the experiment. So it came in at a really, really low cost of just over £3,000 to run this. I had one of the chief supers who, after doing this between different roles, confirm what you're doing, delivering blood treatments and doing this experiment for. Which is why I'm here. So, John will talk to you about the assessment of our treatment control groups.
What we're trying to do here, so this is basically to show where's there an equivalence between our treatment control groups. Yes, they were randomised, but let's evidence, let's show, let's illustrate the fact that those two groups had some equivalence. That's what this chart's trying to show. This one, that was burglary, this is vehicle crime. Just to make sure this is clear, the trial, the experiments, what we were doing was about burglary. But this was like a little bonus, like a sort of a supplementary. We thought, if we're doing all this work to try and reduce burglary, will it have any impact on vehicle crime? We just asked that question and just a bonus experiment if you want.
So we worked out it took about 37 minutes for a full postcode location to be given out by the PCSOs and local teams. Most of the leaflets were delivered within 4 days of the allocation for everyone was born. If you could able to spend just a look at email it came through today. But actually most of those leaflets were delivered within below that time frame because of the nature of our force and the policing teams. I only got them delivered on the Monday or the Tuesday, and Saturday on a rest day, so it would be picked up later on. But that shortness of the leaflets after the people location is important and builds in the fees around the possibility of other offences to occur in a short time there.
This is just to say another aspect of equivalence. We just wanted to see, having randomised those postcodes into the relevant groups, is that equivalence verifiable? Is it demonstrated in terms of the in-season multiple declaration? We use box plots here basically to give some sort of visual sense. Yes, they are on average approximately.
And the results.
Right. So in terms of burglary, harking back to the previous slide, you notice that we were going into lockdown periods, and there was a downward trend in terms of burglary. Back to the similar. So this is the beauty, if you will, of a randomised controlled trial, because what we found is that whilst both the treatment and the control groups actually saw a drop in burglary reduction, there was a bigger reduction in the treatment group, i.e. that's which we delivered the most. And that's what that result is reporting here, that for control and that for treatment. And the increase was almost 9% extra in the treatment group in comparison to the control.
That's a reduction.
Reduction.
Not increase fees.
So did I say that? And similarly for vehicle crime. Now, slight typo mistake. Andy's police officer, that's a biggable offence. Any analyst in the room, that is not a biggable offence. So here we go. Vehicle crime, it wasn't statistically significant, but there was a reduction, 6%, i.e. a greater reduction compared to control. This is based, now moving into finances, the financial aspect of it. When anyone says, so are we saving any money?